In this video, I need to get the car ready for its first event, which means that the engine and suspension need to go back into the car. And to do that means a slight change to plans. Welcome back. I got 2 weeks until the first event that I've signed up for, which means that I need to get the car ready, which means that there are going to be a few compromises. But let's pick off where we left off in the last video. We got the suspension all mounted up, the coilovers installed. The lower control arm I have now fully welded out. Figure I'd show it to you before I paint it black, and it won't really show up on camera too well. So got the sway bar mount welded on, the coilover, the ball joint, the rod end, the piece for the rear strut suspension tube. So this is all done. Both of them have been fully welded. They've been primed. They just need to be painted now. So that will kind of lead me into painting. It is cold outside and I do all my painting outside. So I need to figure out a way to paint, and here is how I'm going to be doing it. Step one, I put the paint can in hot water. This just helps to get it to aerate a little bit better. And then after they're painted, I have them hanging inside the shop here with a heater to help just kind of bake the paint on a little bit better, because I can't leave them outside. It's too cold for them to dry. So that is my painting setup that I have going on right now. Quick updates on the engine since you last saw it. I have the oil fill port installed on the valve cover. It's behind the throttle body on the passenger side. I wanted to put it in like a stock location forward of it, but there just was not enough space. A little nerve-wracking drilling a 1 1/8 hole into brand new valve covers, but it is done. It came out really well. The bracket for the coils, I have had to modify it a little bit. There was interference issues with the alternator, so I've had to cut and notch it a little bit in there. Otherwise, they are kind of unchanged. Thinking of a few ideas to kind of redesign this bracket a little bit, mostly on this side to give clearance for the alternator and other things. That side is pretty good, I believe. Now we can get this engine off the stand onto the K-member that I modified, get it installed into the car, get the suspension all installed in there, and get this car on the ground and running all for the first time, hopefully. All right, the engine is pretty much ready to go into the car. I'm gonna do it the same way that I took it out. I'm gonna raise up the car, roll this under, lower the car back down, and then lift the engine and transmission all up in place. It seemed to work out pretty well last time, and I think it will be pretty easy this time. So it was much easier to get the transmission, installed with it outside of the car than trying to wrestle that inside the car. But really, that wasn't that big of a problem before. While I got it out, I took the opportunity to get a new speedo gear, so I can finally have an accurate speedometer. I'm planning to do a little bit more street driving with the car this year, for just getting the suspension kind of figured out and broken in, get the engine broken in, but I also want to try to do autocross week, which is a autocross and drive kind of event. So getting the speedometer correct is really important and will help out. Instead of just using my phone with a GPS speed on there, I can actually look at the speedometer and know how fast I'm going. So I'm going to this 23 tooth one, where the one that's in here is an 18 tooth. So this is, I think it had originally 308 gears in it. So that's what this kind of calculated out to, was a 308 gear, where now I have 355s and then the 18-inch bigger tires. So this 23 tooth one is the one that we want now. So we will get that swapped over in there. Simple. I don't know why I've taken so long to do this, because I've had these gears in the car for quite a long time at this point, but sometimes it's low priorities. Also, I thought, I never really looked it up, I had thought that maybe you had to take off the tail housing and actually switch out the gear in there, but you don't. It's just this simple one right here, and now we're done. The front suspension is all assembled. Everything is pretty much torqued. I still have a few things left to do. Obviously the sway bar is not attached. Still have the whole alignment to try to figure out and get that all dialed in. I'm kind of at the ride height that I want to be. So it's 15 inches between eyelet to eyelet on the coilover. That's the middle of its range. And looking at the height, it's pretty close to where I want. I think I am a little high than what I was kind of designing for originally, but that's okay for right now. I don't want to be getting the tire into the fender at all, since I am wider than I was. But we got ABS installed. I might have to do something a little bit with this, but that I had to reroute that line there. Brakes, I was able to kind of reuse the factory mounting up here since I put these window openings in the upper bracket. So I was able to kind of modify that bracket a little bit and get it in its factory location. And the upper A-arm obviously kind of gets in the way of the line, but I think it's going to be okay. I got a kind of a zip tie on the back to kind of hold it to keep it from flaring out too much or rubbing on the upper control arm or hitting the tire or anything like that. But this is basically done for the time being. I had more of a slope, I thought, in my design than what it's showing right now. So it'd be nice if this was obviously at a higher angle. I do have a taller ball joint in here, which helps. It would be nice to maybe get this lower, which it can't go any lower with the current design. I maybe would have to redesign the upper bracket to get this at a lower point. So that's probably a future improvement that can be done. But overall, I am really happy with it. I do still need to get a lot of measurements off of it and figure out what my roll center actually is, what my camber gain actually all is. I need to get the alignment all figured out and set. So that will probably be a future video that I'm not really going to go into in this one, as I just need to get the car all together. I'll do a quick alignment to get it kind of done, but all the measurements I'll have to do at a later date. Time to work on the engine now that we got the suspension basically all done. So with the start of Formula One, it's kind of got me thinking about car names again. You know, they do like an abbreviation in the year. So like Red Bull is the RB19, Mercedes is the W14, I think this year. Kind of makes me think maybe I should call the car like an RA12. You know, it kind of be just a fun little thing to do. I mean, obviously RA is Reiner Automotive, and then 12 would be like the 12th season, the 12th iteration of this car. I started autocrossing it in 2012, so that would have been like the RA1, where now we're in 2013, be the RA12. It just kind of shows all the progress that this car has gone through. I mean, it started as a V6 with a swapped 5.0 in it, stock suspension, stock 7.5 rear end, and has steadily improved every year into what it is now, which is way, way beyond what I ever thought the car would be. So that's pretty fun to think about. But I think the RA12, I think that's a fun little nomenclature for the car for this season. We are making progress. Everything is practically bolted up here in the engine. Since this is a brand new built engine, we will need to prime the oil pump, just get oil kind of moved around. So how that is done is just a hex head that's down in the bottom of where the distributor goes. So the distributor runs off the cam gear, which then runs the oil pump, which is just a hex gear. So you just kind of stick this down in there and rotate it. Now we got oil kind of flowing. So I've done that. I've rotated the engine over to kind of move oil around at different crank locations. I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but it seemed like a good idea just to get everything kind of rotating around, get oil going at different crank positions, I've rotated around 720 degrees because if I did just 360, I would no longer be at top dead center on compression. So I rotated around 720 degrees to get back to top dead center where I had everything set. So now I can move on to installing the ignition. And that is where I need to make a compromise. I am going back to the distributor, but it is only temporary. I am still planning to do the distributorless ignition. I still have the coil brackets installed on there. I have the trigger wheel installed on the crankshaft. I have the engine harnesses all basically built. On the engine right now is the old harness from the other engine that still has all the plug wires for the distributor. This is just so I can get the engine running. I am out of time. I don't have time to do any of the tuning at the moment. So I will kind of push that off to a little bit later in the year. And it kind of works out, I think, better. I'm not changing too much all at once. I can focus a little bit on getting the suspension figured out and not have to worry about also tuning, getting the engine tuned. So this will kind of help out, I think, in the long run. But that is the plan. And at this point, I am out of time for any more work until I need to get this video edited and put out. And then I am also up against the deadline of getting this car ready for the event, which is in about a week, a little bit more than a week. But there is still time. I haven't given up. I haven't canceled the registration yet. But I have to get the engine running basically in the next couple of days and get this car driving in the next couple of days in order to be sure that I can make it to that event. So with that, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. We will catch you in the next one. I need to get back to work so we can get to that first event. See you guys later.